So, the battle is raging tonight as this administration tramples all over the norms that make our government, our democracy, work. That's just the truth. We're going to tell you why. The latest, refusing to budge on the president's taxes. The Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin denying a lawful request by House Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal for the president's returns after missing two deadlines. Two, which is no surprise. The president, throughout the campaign, first 2 years of his term, has refused to release his taxes, even though that has been the norm going all the way back to President Nixon. But this is just another page right out of the Trump playbook. And there's more. Another deadline defied by this administration. The Attorney General ignoring the deadline this morning to turn over an unredacted version of the Mueller report to Congress. Now, the House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler has set a Wednesday vote to hold the AG, the Attorney General of the United States, in contempt. Committee staff and DOJ officials meeting tomorrow in a last-ditch attempt to avoid the contempt vote. Where are we heading? Where are we going? When is all of this going to end? All of this is happening as a battle rages over Robert Mueller and whether he'll ever get the chance to publicly testify about his investigation. Well, tonight, the Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham tells CNN that he is open to testimony any way Mueller wants to provide it, but only about Mueller's phone call with Barr, not about anything else. So that's actually not any way he wants to provide it. That's the way Lindsey Graham wants him to provide it, right? That, as the House wants Mueller to testify there May 15th. So we'll see. Remember, it was only last week that the Attorney General William Barr said this about the question of Mueller testifying.
I've already said publicly, I have no objection.
The president seemed to be fine with that, telling reporters just a few days ago that he'd leave the whole thing up to Barr.
That's up to our Attorney General, who I think has done a fantastic job.
Well, the president is doing a 180, which is getting to be his default position. Tweeting, Bob Mueller should not testify, no redos for the Dems. An administration official claiming that was just the president expressing his opinion, not saying he would block Mueller. In any case, Mueller's testimony about his own report is not a redo. It's answering questions about his work. And as we have pointed out many, many times, Robert Mueller is a registered Republican, not a Democrat. And anyway, what is the president afraid of? That's the question. What is he afraid of? Remember the day after Barr's summary of the Mueller report was released? The president said Mueller acted honorably.
Mr. President, do you think Robert Mueller acted honorably?
So why wouldn't you want Mueller to testify, to tell the world his conclusions? For weeks, you've been cheering the report.
There was no obstruction and none whatsoever. It was a complete and total exoneration.
The Mueller report was great. It could not have been better. It said no obstruction, no collusion. It could not have been better.
The finding was very, very strong. No collusion, no obstruction.
The special counsel completed its report and found no collusion and no obstruction. I could have told you that 2.5 years ago. Total exoneration, beautiful conclusion. I haven't seen the report. There was no collusion at all. There never was.
They said no obstruction, and so there's no collusion, there's no obstruction.
So why wouldn't you want him to say that out loud? What are you afraid of? Maybe the fact that what you've been saying for weeks is not actually the truth. I know, shocker. In a statement today, more than 500 former federal prosecutors said Trump's conduct, 500 of them, look at that, look at the names rolling on your screen. They said that Trump's conduct, as Mueller described it in his report, would have resulted in multiple felony obstruction charges, except for the fact that DOJ regulations say you cannot charge a sitting president. You cannot indict a sitting president. Now, I'm going to talk to some of those former federal prosecutors in just a few minutes here, but let's face it, It's no surprise that this president is trying to mislead you. After all, this is the president who, according to the latest count from the Washington Post's fact checkers, has made over 10,000 false or misleading claims since he took the oath of office. The president who today tweeted that he thinks they, whoever he means by that, have stolen 2 years of his presidency, which is just ridiculous. Victim in chief, all over again. Nobody has stolen anything from this president, despite his false claims aimed at stirring up his base ahead of 2020. And this, it could be downright scary. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, telling the New York Times that she doesn't automatically trust President Trump to respect the results of the 2020 election. She fears he challenged the legitimacy of a Democratic win. And it sounds like he's already laying the groundwork for that, tweeting today about what he calls the Democrats' state-by-state power grab and accusing them of playing dirty. And the Speaker is not the only one who thinks the president might not respect the results of the next election. Michael Cohen, the president's former fixer, who reported to prison today after pleading guilty to charges including campaign finance violations, said this to Congress in his testimony earlier this year.
Given my experience working for Mr. Trump, I fear that if he loses the election in 2020, that there will never be a peaceful transition of power.
So is Nancy Pelosi right? Michael Cohen, is he right? Is there really a chance as president, President Trump could question the legitimacy of the 2020 election?